and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the KittyRose lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Burly face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy. Love sincerity, so I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. I am one of your hosts, Minister Kat, aka KittyRose, and I'm joined once again by the beautiful
Melissa D.
Hey, my love. How are you today?
I'm here in New England, and it's in that weird temperature where you're sweating balls indoors and you're chilly outside.
Well, what's funny is that you're not in Puerto Rico today. You're actually up north with us. So
Yes,
you're wearing
yes.
a sweater and I'm wearing a t-shirt. That's a little off balance today.
Right, because I haven't acclimated to the temperature change.
Well, I want to start off by congratulating Reggie, the GOAT, Cush Edwards, for once again joining us last week. And for those that are here in New York, don't forget that tickets are still available to check him out, the first battle rap ever at Caroline's on Broadway, November 8th. So I want to thank him once again for joining us last week, and I want to get right into today's topic of the week. Today's topic of the week, I want to say a little nervous about. I think this is going to be one of those controversy topics that we're going to talk about, Melissa. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Well, we are fully aware that midterm elections are coming up. So today's topic of the week is about voting. And does voting really matter? Dun, dun, dun. Ooh. I want to give a disclaimer. This is just our opinions. But I asked all of you to really try to take in the opinions that we give you without judgment, without hearing all of what we have to say, because I think this is definitely, like I said, going to cause some controversy. And one of the reasons why I think it's going to cause controversy is because I don't vote. But I am very active in the community. And I use that as justification for me not voting. Do you vote, Melissa?
I typically do, but right now I'm not registered in Puerto Rico, so I'm not voting in the midterms, but I do typically vote.
You do typically vote.
Mm-hmm.
So you made a comment that you don't typically vote that you're not voting in the midterms, or that you don't typically vote in the midterms. And I think
No, I do. I do.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, I do. I'm just not this time because I'm in Puerto Rico and I'm not registered to vote in Puerto Rico at this moment.
Okay. Well, I wanted to start this conversation off by let's addressing first the idea of what the United States is supposed to represent in regards to, I guess, how the voting process is supposed to help us. So I pulled up just a snippet of the Constitution of America. And it states, for those that don't know, because we say this often in the Pledge of Allegiance, we don't say this, but we use some similar verbiage. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Sounds like a bunch of old white guys wrote this.
Well, it was a bunch of old white guys that wrote this, but the bunch of old guys wrote to establish justice domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. The reason why I repeated that is because normally what has happened, at least in my 48 years, is that I was not taught, and I believe, don't quote me, but I believe still in general education, that the midterm elections is not taught in school. So I'm always curious to what information is being fed to us and what information is being omitted. So the fact that it's not taught on on a basic educational level about the midterm elections makes me suspicious to every 4 years that everyone definitely runs to the polls to vote, because the midterm elections is actually what's more, they say, important. So let's go to actually what the midterm elections supposed to represent in the first video that I pulled up for us to discuss or dissect and understand.
Midterms, governors, state representatives, and local candidates run for office across the country, too. Historically, voter turnout in the midterms is lower than presidential elections. In recent decades, around 60% of eligible voters cast their ballots during presidential elections, while 40% do so in the midterm elections. Midterms are generally viewed as a gauge of the sitting president's performance, and they can shift the power of the presidency.
Were you aware of that's what was involved in the midterm elections? That actually the midterm elections actually was like the setup for the every 4 years election that we do, and in the, was that primary?
Yeah.
And then the I'm sorry.
So it's really interesting how you know, what you were talking about is how we don't know about what's going on with the midterms and stuff, like who's running. I feel like there's not even enough, I don't know, like press about who's running. I mean, I feel like that's been the case since I was little. Would you say the same for yourself?
Yes, it is, because even now, like, it's interesting to see, you know, all the commercials that are talking about the midterm elections, but it's still general information. It's not, you know how I learned about the elections? Real talk. You want to know how I learned how things actually operate? I'm going to give you a random minute to guess.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Okay, close. Television. It was a show called The Wire on HBO. Have you ever peeped it? Have you ever checked out The Wire?
Oh, well, how are you getting HBO? You got money?
Girl, a little bit. So anyway, there's a show called on HBO called The Wire years ago, and I was watching this show, and this show was so educational about teaching you the intricacy of how government and day-to-day politics work within your community. And they took the show off, I believe, because it was educating too much about how things work, because the midterm elections actually are where your DAs, where your congressmen, where your police chiefs, where your local people get put into office. But because, again, this is omitted out of the educational system, you're not really aware that these types of policies or these types of decisions are being made. So then if you're omitting this from me, then I'm not really involved in the decision making, because in every 4 years that come, these people have already been put in place during the midterm elections that I'm not taught about.
Now, can we step back a second, Kitty, and ask, why don't you vote?
Okay, I'm glad you asked. That was not scripted, folks. Okay, so first of all, it's a catch-22 that I don't vote. So as some of you may know, I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, even though I am not an active member of this organization, my foundation of my spiritual belief or scriptural belief. That's the key. There's a difference between spiritual belief and scriptural belief. My scriptural belief has taught me to no earthly man salvation belongs. So the scriptures not only teaches me to no earthly man salvation belongs, the scriptures also teach me in John chapter 17 verses 16 that we are no part of this world, just as Jesus, and we're supposed to be Christians representing Christ here on earth, is no part of the world. So taking Jesus, knowing that the Jews was about to come and seize him to make him king, withdrew again into the mountains all alone. And then he told the Roman governor, my kingdom is no part of this world. If my kingdom was a part of this world, my attendants would have fought that I should not be delivered up to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from this source. So with that being said, there's another scripture that we refer to that says that the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. That's in 1 John chapter 5. So no matter what worldly fraction of a person might support or has good intentions, under whose control would it really come from, since scripturally we're taught that the whole world lies in the power of the wicked one. So with that education that I've been given, you know,
I have so many questions right now.
Okay, so yeah, let's start with the questions because I can keep on going. What's the first question that comes to you?
My question is, if everybody were Jehovah's Witnesses, then how would we have any, like, politics? Would there be no politics?
Exactly. That's not a good question. Ask me another one. What I think, I think that, well, one, that's one of the issues, that we're not all Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, and that's the identification or the identifying part to show the difference between those who are righteously living in accordance with the scriptures and those who are just using the freedom of thought or the freedom of independence or the freedom of freedom to do what it is that they want, which is what has happened throughout history, throughout time, which, if we go back to the scriptures, happened in the beginning, supposedly with this story of Adam and Eve, where Eve, out of her curiosity, wanted to see something else. Having full knowledge of consequences and choice, wanting to be curious about, well, I want to see what this looks like. So the human nature has happened on to this time in our lifespan where the curious nature of us all don't have us fall into line in obedience to how we should live. So that, so that comes to, like, you know, because we are in an imperfect world, imperfect society, no, we're not all Jehovah's Witnesses. That's one of the reasons why Jehovah's Witnesses continue with the education component, because not trying to, I know for me, I never tried to convert anyone. My job to me was always as a messenger to inform those who were unaware. And that's what I have the issue when it comes to the politics parts of people's good intentions. I think that people growing up and want to make a change have good intentions about wanting to be able to be a part of that change. But if the powers that be, Satan and those he may be using, are the ones in control, does that good intent from that good intentional person who from a child thought about coming into politics, do they actually get to follow through on their intentions? Let's look at the second video, because I wanted to kind of piggyback off the two videos together and get your thoughts.
Okay. What do you think is important about voting?
I think not only is it a responsibility of democracy, I think it's a great way to ensure democracy exists.
People complain a lot about the government, but they don't vote. So if you vote, you're allowed to complain.
We have all this freedom, but we don't take advantage of it. So, and we should take advantage of it because so many countries don't have this freedom that we do.
Why do you want to be heard?
Why? Because your voice makes a difference, right?
Yeah.
So it's best if you say something right now rather than not say something.
I can understand people not wanting to get involved and saying it doesn't matter or I don't care what happens. but politics is not something that you study in a textbook.
Government matters a lot more than young people tend to think it does.
Politics is happening around you every day, all the time.
From the water you drink, to the air you breathe, to the roads you drive on, to the kind of education you get, politics is there somewhere.
This country's being shaped a little bit and changed a little bit every day by who's in office and what they do.
If you're unhappy with the system, the way to change it isn't to sit at home and whine about it. The way to change it is to get involved.
But do we all have the same access to get involved?
But you have these commercials now that you're seeing now that have young people or encouraging young people of different nationalities, encouraging them that you can't complain about something without being actively involved, so you have to vote. So my thing is it an illusion, the idea that your vote does matter? Because as the gentleman mentioned, politics is happening every day. Policies are being made every day. Politics, I remember here in New York, I'm sure you as an educator, I know one of the trips that we always took the middle school kids on actually was we took them up to Albany, and we took them, but I don't know if we took them up to Albany and actually explained what was happening while we was taking them up to Albany, and what actually was happening with policies being brought to the table and being either rejected or accepted. Bills, there it goes. So School of Hard Rock, right? School of, then that's how we learned about the bill and I can't. Oh damn! I should have pulled that commercial. That on YouTube. But that's how we was taught. But then I think that when we heard the song, yo, it's so crazy. I should have pulled that. I wonder if my team can pull it. I know they can. I don't think when I heard the song, I even registered what was being said.
No, that's the thing. Like, I didn't learn about politics until really I was in college, or I think I was dating a local a council person. And that's when I learned that it was important for me to register to vote and why it's important to vote in local elections. And then when it wasn't until I got into college, I realized, like, this is why we all go to the state house, and this is why we go with our signs, is to really say, like, this is what we believe in, these are the people who we support. I didn't learn that until later on, and that was access through college, and not everybody gets that access, because I was in social work. I'm sure, like, the biomedic people probably didn't go to the state house. So yeah, it's interesting that maybe we're not being taught this in school because it keeps us in our place.
Boom, 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 boom. It keeps us in our place. So then if it keeps us in our faith, my question again is politics an illusion? And I think that sometimes some of us fall into that trap thinking that it doesn't matter, that your voice is empty, that, that if you're voting every 4 years and you have the lesser of two evils, that's what the philosophy is nowadays. That's what you always hear people say, well, I don't like this and I don't like that, but, he's not as bad as, or she's not as bad. And then you have independents, people that run, but then they don't get the same opportunity or exposure because they don't have the same capital. So then we go right back to the same problem that we are based our whole society on within these United States, which is money. So if you have more money than someone else or more funding than someone else, you get the visibility that people now can see your face, even though, again, is it just an illusion if I only saw your face every 4 years and don't really know how you built up that career? I'm not, like, it's so funny now as an artist here in New York, and this is where I'm torn, because I am a community activist. I do believe that there has been change. Not enough change, not fast enough change, but I do believe that there has been change. I do believe that the voice of people have been heard through voting. I don't know. But the problem is that it's still slow motion. Why? Yeah. Why is it still slow motion? Why are machines not accessible to everyone? Why is there
That's what I was gonna say.
Doubting? Why is there accounting fraud? Why is there people that get, tempted by money that they have to go to what they say, what's the people that give you money and then you owe them later on?
Lobbyists.
Lobbyists, there you go. Let's go to a PSA and break this conversation up a little bit.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
We scored?
Yeah, we scored going to the playoffs.
I can't believe I missed that. Every time I'm buzzed, I spend too much time on my phone.
What? I should take your phone away.
No. I'll call for a ride.
Wait, why does my face look like that?
I'm playing with these new face filters.
Okay, you know what? Yep, that's mine.
But I need that back.
No.
Kevin!
I must be buzzed all the time because I spend way too much time on my phone.
I'm not laughing to that. But that's an example of how everyday laws get changed and get passed or get affected or are effective by local government, by by the people on the streets, you know, and it's unfortunate that there had to be enough mothers that lost their children to drunk driving, that MAD had to be created and go to Albany or go to the Supreme Court or go to whatever level they had to get that bill passed, where folks will now get ticketed or go to jail if they're buzz driving. So it's interesting how, again, these are small policies that have impact, that are still involved and that you can be involved in, where I try to, you know, do my part, you know. Like when I was thinking about what kind of PSAs to have today, we wanted to put PSAs around voting, but since we didn't have any available to us, we still wanted to give PSAs that showed responsibility, accountability, and again, things that came through movement and action within the community. 211, those types of information lines or information organizations are grassroots organizations where people on the street or on, you know, within the community that's actually making change, that's actually being a part of helping one be better or get access to be better. Where again, I think the illusion of the general elections, if you don't know these politicians, can still be kind of waived by those who have money to move certain people along.
Exactly. But also thinking about the public access channel that we're on too. I mean, there was voting that needed to be done to say that there's funding that comes to this program that allows us to do this. So it's interesting how even just small things like public access television, yes, it's funded by donations and stuff like that, but also there's that need to have somebody who believes in this program to continue to advocate for us. And it's important to do the small voting. The small voting is really what's important. That big president one, not so important, because all the people that you voted for in the small ones are the ones that are going to be judging who the president's going to be in 2 more years.
Right. So how I kind of, I guess, maybe justify my absent voting lifestyle is I have not made my children live that way. Like, I teach my children my choice and why my choice is what it is, but I teach them the same way that I teach about religion, giving you the information that so that you can make these informed choices for yourself, you know, because I think that that's what has to happen. You have to be able to make informed choices for yourself and not be fed or told what to do, you know. And I think that, you know, growing up as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, yes, I made a decision to dedicate my life and become one, but also I was told not to do this, not given the option to, you know, do it or not, or even understand what that option looked like. So with my children, I give them the option of both. And with their grandmother and their father, they have been able to see the actual politics in action, because they've gone, even before they were of voting age, they went to the polls with their grandmother. They went to the polls with their father. So for me, in that sense, I saw them being a part of history. I saw them feeling like they were a part of something. But again, I don't want people to live a fraud life. And I think sometimes when you got the button, I voted today, when you're at the polls, it's fraud life. Because if all you're doing is making a decision every 2 years or every 4 years with a name on the ballot, but you're not doing anything within your community, you're not teaching your children anything about policies or how they can get involved, you don't know who your police chief is, you don't know who your PTA president is at your child's school, you don't know who your district attorney. I met Letitia, our DA, Letitia, is it James? Letitia James, thank you. Letitia James, when I was working at the Mary Center, when she was in the midterm elections, going to be the district attorney, and because she was on the ground local and came to the Mary Center to talk to us about who she was, then she became familiar to me. I met Lori Cumble, who's the cultural director here in New York, because before she became a politician, she was an artist, she was a dancer. So now that she's a politician, I'm involved with her because she deals directly with bringing the arts and cultures to New York. There's a brother right now, Kwame, who has Tourette's syndrome. I freaking love him, but I don't know necessarily what policies he stands on, but I love the fact that he has Tourette's and he's in office showing that example of someone with
Tourette's.
Right, and he's sexy as hell, you know what I'm saying? But just a showing of a black man who's beautiful looking to watch, who has a so-called disability, still trying to make change. So he is someone that my son can look at and see himself, and not necessarily, because I felt like politicians always looked old to me as well. I'm sorry, Melissa.
You are in a chatty mood today, Miss Kitty.
Well, you know why? Because elections is this week, Ma. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we air on Saturday, elections is Tuesday. And this is, like, I'm chatty because I'm passionate about what folks don't realize actually what's happening.
So what I was thinking about when you were saying how you don't vote, but you will let your children vote, you talk about what is important to you, and maybe what's important to you is something that they want to vote on. It kind of make me think of like when you say like, I'll pray for you. It's kind of like, I'm not religious, but if you want to pray for me, I'll take it. So I like how that kind of we kind of have that parallel together. But it also sounds like it's interesting that when you actually see the people in person, face to face, that actually makes a huge difference for you. And I think that's important for the politicians to know, is like, once we know who you are, the state secretary, I went to like a party she was at, I don't know, 5 years ago or something like that, when she was trying to get to be state secretary. And like, I didn't know what a state secretary did at the time. Again, I'm still in my 30s.
Right.
Didn't know what she did. But I know her name. I know who she is. I can figure her out on the street. So I think it's important for the politicians of the lower levels to get out there, meet the people, show them why it's important to know them, to get to be around us and to be a part of the people.
Right. Boom. And I think that that's one of the reasons why my next video is so poignant, because the next video comes from the New York Times, but the topic of the clip is why Americans don't vote. Let's go to it.
Recent surveys and studies show that among many factors, there are 3 major reasons why people don't vote. Reason number 1, they believe voting doesn't make a difference. Among non-voters, especially young ones, this is the number 1 reason for staying home on election day. According to recent surveys, roughly 2/3 of non-voters say they don't pay much attention to politics because it is so corrupt. Only 22% of voters believe the two-party system does a good job of representing the will of the American people. This becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People refuse to participate, which reduces their representation in government, which adds to their sense that they are not being represented. which then reinforces their lack of participation. Reason number 2, the system discourages participation. The most accurate predictor of whether someone will vote or not isn't race, ethnicity, age, or gender. It's their level of education and income. As a rule, wealthy college-educated people vote at much higher rates than low-income uneducated individuals. The result is that low-income communities have a harder time getting fair representation at every level of government. Again, it's a vicious circle. People don't vote, they lose representation, and so they become disillusioned and continue to stay away from the polls. And this doesn't include deliberate efforts by lawmakers across the country, more often Republicans, to lower turnout among low-income populations and minorities, who tend to vote for Democrats. This leads to a perfect storm of disenfranchisement. Gerrymandered districts, restrictive voter ID laws, and lack of access to early voting are all examples of efforts to lower voter turnout among specific groups of people. Reason number 3, voters are confused. Because each state has its own registration deadlines, voter ID requirements, and early voting schedules, many potential voters simply don't know what's required of them to be able to vote.
So they make it very difficult for us to get representation.
On purpose. On purpose. So it's a vicious cycle where we lose representation because, as we mentioned before, we don't see someone that looks like us because all the candidates look old, or all the candidates look white, or all the candidates look like is unrelatable, or all the candidates are telling me what they're going to do rather than giving us an actual plan of something we can be a part of. So that's, again, goes back to what you were saying about how, our views become different when there's an actual, not just a face, but there's a personality attached to the face, and there's a platform. I was watching The View yesterday because, again, we're coming up on midterm elections, and, we just had one debate here in New York in regards for the upcoming governor. And one of the things that was said, that the gentleman who's running in the Republican Party against the sister who's running, was that he didn't have a plan, and that we know what her plan is, so that made it more interesting. So I hear this a lot. They have a plan. What's the plan? Obama had a plan. Trump had a plan. I hear this a lot. But then again, who is the plan for? How does the plan involve me if you don't involve me?
What I'm saying? And then how do you get involved? So how do you get involved in that plan?
Well, how do you get involved if you're only educating the certain demographics, or, like you said, giving me that education once I'm in higher education like college? What happens to those who just go to high school and then become city workers? Because, believe it or not, the politics affect city employees, how they get paid, how they unionize, education, teachers, all these things, these intricate small parts of democracy, and that's the other thing. In this so-called United States, why are we the country that's supposed to be so progressive but rank so low when it comes to so-called democracy? And I think, not to sidebar, and I'm sorry, please, Melissa, you're going to have to just interject on my ass today, but why can't we really call the United States a fucking capitalist country? Why are we still living under the illusion that we live in a democracy?
Oh, I thought we were calling it a capitalist.
Between each other, but the United States does not identify themselves as a capitalist country.
Okay, all right. It's just amongst each other.
So that's the other component. Like, I think that's also what makes people not want to, get down the gauntlet, because you're not even being honest about the true representation of what you're representing. I think that people will respect this country, and people within this country will respect this country if you just called it what it was. We live in a capitalist, everything is about money, because you make everything about money. You know what I'm saying? You make everything about money. You grease the palms of politicians and those in power to get your way, to get your contracts, to get your, policies or grants. I know for me, I write grants all the time to get funding for different programs. But I also know that we live in a society that it's not what you know, it's who you know. So if I know someone who's in charge of the grant decisions, my grant could be shit. And I will get the grant because I got the hookup.
And even up until recently with like the marijuana legalization, to legalize marijuana, like it was like a no, we're not going to legalize it, stuff like that. And then all of a sudden you see politicians are saying like, oh yeah, we should legalize it. It's not because they care about the people or they think that the research has changed and now it's more safe and it's not a Schedule I drug. It's because now they're getting a piece of the pie. It has to do with the money. And again, it's taking it away from minority individuals, growers, stuff like that. It's beginning to be a big lobbyist thing. People with the money can buy the licenses, and more licenses can go to the same Walmart-sized companies. And it's like, even when you think something like marijuana that had a level playing field, it's still now becoming corrupt, just like everything else. It's a very, very frustrating.
So then why vote?
That's why we're going to vote at the level.
Vote? Say again?
We need to start prioritizing voting on the lower level, because those lower level, those people that we see are the ones that are going to raise their hands for us. So that's why I feel like midterms, smaller voting, that's what you need to go out there and vote for. The big, every 4 years, you know, vote, but you know, it's the smaller ones that are going to be more important, the ones that are going to happen in a few days.
But if you vote on the local level and you vote for, let's say, the young ones coming up, let's say the 20-something, the 30-year-something, you know, people who actually feel and have the energy to create change. But the people in policy or the people within power who already created these policies are 60, 70, 80 years old who not willing yet to change things, to change the way that the government has purposely set itself up for folks of a certain income level, education level, social level does not grow or does not exceed further than they or exceed to the level of they, because ultimately you need workers, you need minions, you need, you know, you need people who are not as thinking about the process as much as you are, because they just want to go and live a humble day-to-day regular life.
Yeah, and you know, with the chemicals that are putting in our water, there'll be plenty of those people, but there will be other people coming up who are growing up who do want the change. We do have those people out there, and I think like we just need to keep on talking about it, talk about it with our little ones as they're growing up. Like you said, with your kids, have them go to the voting booth, have them meet the people. I mean, this is why it's so important to talk to your kids and have this communication, even with your partners too. Talk with your partners about this stuff and why it's important. We all need to communicate with each other more and educate our younger people.
On that note, let's go to our last PSAs for the night.
Today I'm going to talk to you about physics. Come on in, girls. Let's go. This is the first rocket to get humans to Mars.
Really tall.
I'm a rocket structural engineer, designing and building parts of the rocket. You are the generation that will be stepping foot on Mars. Do I have a group of astronauts on my hands?
Yes.
You can become a rocket scientist or whatever else you want to be.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. For her to see her father celebrate his graduation, it's the best feeling in the world. I can't lie and say it was easy. But sometimes you just have to stop everything and take it in. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
I like those PSAs today.
Because again, it's about being involved, you know, and being involved even on a local level. So before we, you know, go into our, I did it better this week, our Jesus moment. A Jesus moment. I wanted to give a little different this week in our spotlight moment. So the last couple of weeks, everybody always mentions, my earrings. That's been like a trademark of the KittyRose brand. But this week in particular, because last week everyone was talking about those brown leather earrings I was wearing, I wanted to shout out my sister friend in Harlem, Sevilla Sala, and her IG is Sevilla Sala Creation at ST, and you can find her on IG. Now, I don't call her that. I call her Selena.
There was no you did not butcher her name.
I call her Selena, yes. So, check her out on IG. You can order on her ST page for her handmade earrings. But if you are in New York, she is right on 125th Street and Lenox Avenue. Get to her before it gets cold, because she is a dope-ass African by way of Harlem sister out here doing the damn thing, creating these statement pieces for me each week. So shout out to my sister Selena out on Harlem on 125th and Lenox, Sevilla Sala. Check it out. All right, here we come, Melissa D. The spot, the Jesus moment. Is
Jesus.
What? Jesus moment. I'm going to give you the floor first, because I did have a lot to say today. I think you actually gave the Jesus moment before we went to the PSA. So let's remind us what your Jesus moment was or is.
I'm going to vote for you, and then you'll continue to pray for me.
This is no joking matter,
The moment is that we need to continue to have this conversation with our younger people. That's what it comes down to, is that we need to keep talking about it, and that to educate people that they can make a difference, not that everything's corrupt. It starts at the lower level and it goes higher up the ladder. So let's start working at the lower level to get our voices heard, and hopefully those people that we're speaking to can carry our message up to the top. Are you praying for me right now?
Because my Jesus moment was still, it's all an illusion. The Matrix is real, my love. And I think that I believe within my gut that I do believe on local levels that they start out with good intentions. And I think that what happens is that when you stay on the local level, then maybe you can create some type of change. But even that becomes so difficult. Just an example of, let's just say, I don't know the details of what happens, in politics. I know even with dealing in the nonprofit world, you have an agenda. You go in there with a plan of action of what you want to do for the community. And the organization that you work for, or the organization that you're getting funding from, yes, this is what we want. Check that. Check this, check that. But then but we're not going to give you funding for this. We're not going to give you funding for that. We're not going to give you funding for that. So when it comes to politics and you're giving these big budgets, you're going over, how to allocate money, which is also an illusion, because at the same time that they're fucking making money, they're fucking burning money. So,
and that's why crypto is going to come back. That's my theory.
Okay. Crypto, fucking fake money in the universe. Okay. You know what I'm saying? What a Bitcoin. Okay. But again, if you have a bunch of Bitcoins, or you have a bunch of money of a budget again, but you don't allocate funds to really help the community. So you give money to the police department, right? For salaries, for overtime, for uniform, for arm, for weapons, right? But you don't allocate funds for therapy, mental, the risk of outpatient, or the risk of the mental stability that comes with that type of work that one is doing, protecting, serving a community that does not appreciate the work that they do on a daily basis. Or when you have, funding, once again, for education, but you don't give new books, or you don't update books, or you still restrict teachers from teaching correct academics. Why in 2022, is it 2022? Why did we just have school closed once again for Columbus Day? Why are they still teaching that Columbus discovered an environment that had fucking people on it? But again, are they reasons to keep me in the dark, keep me confused, keep me angry? Because if you, that's the flip side. If you keep feeding me fucked up shit, then I'm not gonna trust anything you give me. So yeah, you wanna tell me that there are good politicians, that there are good agendas, but again, that's that saying, one bad apple spoils the whole thing. So if you got 5 great candidates, you got 4 of them probably, so I did that backwards. If you got 5 candidates, one is probably the good one in that batch. So my Jesus moment, again, I really believe is of a controversy one, because the women on my shirt, you know, that's the issue that black folks have with other black folks that don't vote. We've done too much to get to a place of having a say-so. But then that's the other part that bothers me. Why are we still giving a fuck about getting permission from people who don't fucking give us permission? So why are we still, you know, why are these women on my shirt still relevant in 2022? Why are we still fighting the same battles? Because they're not as bad? What the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Because they're not as bad, so we accept mediocrity? In a country that's supposed to be where everybody wants to come, the land of the home and the free, where we started with the Constitution, the justice. How do we trust a country who every day tells us that we ain't worth shit unless we got a fucking dollar? And how about I ain't gonna give you the dollar because I want you to keep working for 50 cents?
And that is a beautiful Jesus moment today. Gotta rein you in, girl.
Forgive me, y'all, but not. Take in what I say, because at the end of the day, I'm just a messenger. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a messenger. You go to make those decisions yourself, whether you're going to be active in the polls, in politics, or you're going to be active in your community, or you're going to be active in your house, because that's the real component. What are you teaching at home? What are you setting an example to the next generation of children that you're raising, that you're around, the people that your neighbors? How do you treat do you get involved with your local police? Do you know your police officers? Do you know your fire department? You know what I'm saying? Like, how involved are you without voting? So if you're not involved at all, yes, I agree with you. Shut the fuck up. But just because you're not involved in voting doesn't mean that you still can't have a place in action. And I don't mean this fraud life action. I don't mean let's march. Fuck a march. Because what does marches do if it doesn't still create change right then and there? So I'm all a part of let's boycott. Let's do shit that's actually going to hit the pocket that matters. But all of us, or some of us, are too goddamn scared. So we hide behind, look at my sticker. I voted today.
Yeah, yes.
I voted today. I marched. I set an example. I took my boys to march, but I don't teach my boys how to fucking stand up for themselves and know the law if somebody pulls them off. I teach my sons that yes, sir, no, sir, how can I help you, officer? Let me keep my hands here, rather than knowing that you know that you can question the officers. You know that you ain't got to give them shit. But we're not, again, taught what our rights are. So again, if we're not taught what our rights are, how can we make conscious decisions to put the people who are putting those rights into place?
And that's why you're Minister KittyRose.
Oh, Jesus, hallelujah. Tell him, girl. Tell him, girl. Because that's my job. You know, I'm not here to convert you. I'm just here to share a message. That's it.
Right.
Let's think about a different way. Because obviously the way that we thinking is still all, what's that word? Fed to us. Just like this. I'm feeding you guys. We feeding you guys information.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Ooh, Jesus. All right, girl. Let's go to the inbox section. Inbox. I'm so glad you guys are being slow motion, but we got a couple of questions this week. So let me pull the question we got this week was off of LinkedIn. I know it was professional.
On LinkedIn.
Professional LinkedIn. So I learned last week that we should not give people's full name. So I gave homegirl's full name last week. So I learned don't do that. So I'm not going to give the full name, but I am going to, I thought I had it pulled up already. So that is not good.
The person who sent the message you gave the full name of.
Say that again, my love.
The person that left the message you gave the full name for.
Right.
Okay. All right.
So, I'm going to paraphrase. So, Earl S. from North Carolina said that he found it refreshing, the relationship between you and I. And interesting of how we flow together with these different backgrounds of the complexions and lifestyle. And he wanted to know how we met or how we came together. So since I've been so goddamn chatty this episode, you answer that question. How did we meet? Or how did we get together?
That's probably one of the things that kind of works well for us, right? Because you are more of the extroverted, I'm more of the introverted type of person. And that's how we flow really well. But there was a point in time when you were actually on my podcast, and that's how we met. So I had a podcast called Chit Chat with the Queer and Creative, and you were out there promoting your one-woman show, I Am You. And when you came on, we just had this connection. I don't know if it was because we both enjoy talking on, on a microphone or what it was, but we just had this connection. And also secretly, I want my name to be Kitty someday. So I think that may have been what cemented us together.
I feel like when people ask us that question, we're like an old married couple because you never give the whole story. You just give the surface part of the story. Because what she fails to mention to you guys is that, so I did like 45 press media junkins during the time that I met Melissa while I was promoting my one-woman show, I Am You. And Melissa, out of the 45 podcast shows that I was on, she was one out of maybe 3 white people. No, I think it was 2 white folks, and then I had like a Pakistan and, another Albanian type of person, but everybody else was black. Out of everybody else that I interviewed with, the white girl, Melissa, was the only one who reposted stuff I was doing, who stayed in touch with me, who followed me. And then when she saw that I was coming to Puerto Rico, made it her business to meet up with me and treated me to dinner. And we had a good old time. And that actually is what really then cemented our kinship. And then when we started talking about, let's do something together. Yeah, I definitely think that the connection of both of us enjoying talking definitely singed it. But I think, again, because we were both entering these new chapters in our life, it made sense. You know what I'm saying? It kind of made sense.
And I think another part of it has to do with our ability to be open to each other's views on things, because you can say to me like, oh, I thought that was only a white girl thing, And so I think it's good that we're able to be open to say things to each other and not take offense to it because of our backgrounds and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the beauties of our relationship too, because you always tell me to stop being stupid.
But going back to even what we stated about this country, I'm going to share some other real shit with you guys. The other part to us connecting to each other is because as a capitalist, we saw a niche. We saw a place that we knew that we can fit in. So we knew that this topic of the black and white dynamics was bigger than us. We knew that we could capitalize off of us having these differences. We knew that we didn't have to be offended when she said that that's a black girl thing, or I thought black girls did that, or I said that's a white person thing. There's no need to be offended because the purpose of what we're doing dollar-wise so that you guys can see us is bigger than our personal views. We put that aside because we both was like, how other ways can we generate income? Let's keep that shit 100. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We're like, okay, because we both are doing these different things individually with our businesses, but we both are in media. So we're trying to figure out, you know, how can we capitalize off of what other motherfuckers is doing and where can we fit a niche that is not being taken care of? So ding, 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 light bulb moment, we was like, yo, the black and white dynamics, because the black and white dynamics really isn't about black and white because the world is bigger than black and white. The black and white dynamics is about is debunking the illusions of stereotypes that we have fallen into, thinking that we are all different, when at the end of the day, ain't none of us no different than each other but this color. Because we all fucking bleed red and we all like the color green.
I do say, you know, when we first started out on this, you are open to say that you were racist against white people. How would you say that has changed?
I'm still racist.
Now you have two white
racist. I'm still racist. And you know why I say I'm racist? Because people want to tell you also that you can't be racist because you don't have power. But I do have power because my choice to congregate with white folks, date white folks, do shit with white folks is still the same. Yes, I don't mind white folks, but I'm still not running to be friends with them. I happen to saw a niche, fell into a relationship with you, and then because of that, then we like each other and we were able to form a friendship, or we're forming a friendship based off a sisterhood and based off a common ground of wanting to help people. You know what I'm saying? So that's really bigger than us being friends. You know what I'm saying? So on that situation, yeah, I can embrace this relationship with you, but but I would tell you real quick, if it wasn't for the dynamics of the white and black, I would definitely want to rock with a sister before. I mean, my therapist is black. I could use you, but I'm not going to no white therapist for my shit. You know what I'm saying? So again, that's where I, as a racist, still has power, but I'm working on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm working on it. So a year later, I'm not as racist. How about that?
There you go. That's it. That's it. And I embrace that.
Oh, wow. What did I tell you guys? I hope you guys still going to watch us after this week, man, because we gave you a mouthful. But this is the part of the show that we need your support, because once again, this is a government-funded program on public access television, but we also have this show on YouTube that you can see daily. So we need you guys to support us by liking, following, and subscribing.
And sharing.
And sharing. And giving us some feedback. You know, go to the next chapter on Facebook. Give us some feedback. Give us some more information that can help guide people in their thinking. Because it's not just about what Melissa and I discover. It's also about what you guys as a village also contributes to us. So
if you have a question, put it in the inbox.
Come on now, inbox us.
And if you're single, you can put it in my box. No, I'm just kidding.
And while you're doing that, like us, subscribe, and follow us. On that note, everyone, we have had yet another episode of The Next Chapter. You can catch us weekly, every Saturday at 11 o'clock on BronxNet, daily on the other channels here in New York on public access channels, and every day on YouTube after it airs, the Saturdays that it airs on BronxNet. So check us out. We are The Next Chapter, where we discuss Shades of Grey. Good night, everyone. Be safe out there. And make a decision.
The bus driving.
And make a decision.
We get busy. It's cause we actually do. Take a look into my eyes, let them take you to the side. Meet my ride or die, Shay and I. Thankful for my sisters by my side who held me down during dark times. Many train rides I took to get $1 for a rhyme. A luggage in the sign, me while on my mind. I'm thinking I should be in my prime. It ain't easy, but regardless, I'ma thrive. It's that spirit in me, NYC, baby.